group, and if they're just an entrepreneur driven, starting from scratch and not being anchored by any private equity or a VC, or not being anchored by a group, definitely it's obvious that there is a limit up to which they really can fund their entity and their entrepreneur. With that limited fund, what they really need to do is to really, they cannot go for a huge market share. They immediately cannot jump for buying in market share, which some of the big companies do want to. I mean, we sometimes actually take deals which are loss-making deals. We take deals where we do not make money just for the intent of creating a market share. Now that is something possibly a small entity would really not be able to do. But to create the mind share, I mean, if not the market share, because right now what we are seeing is that even to create a mind share has equal importance as to create a market share. And how one can really create a mind share, one has to really focus on the quality of the deliverable. Now this is where I don't think there is any compromise that a small company can do compared to a big company. And this is where I have seen that because of a company becoming too large, because of a governance system, the quality management methodology of the system not being appropriately rolled out to a company which has actually crossed a certain threshold, the chances of a large company failing in many of the IT implementation and many of the IT product deliveries, and examples of such in the market are pretty huge. But this is where a small company, a 100-member team, 200-member team, a small size, where they can actually control the company much better. They really need to work on the weaknesses of these big companies where they are leaving behind a trail of dissatisfied clients to a large extent because of not being able to control their quality and roll out the quality management to that extent as they should actually be. Now therefore the small and medium enterprises really need to focus on the quality delivery. They really need to create that mind share. They really need to create the impact on the mind that the first project that they get, that this is where the quality should be. And the quality comes at a cost. The quality comes at a cost, and they really need to understand the mechanism. I mean, it is easier said than done, but then there are many organizations, big organizations also, there are bodies like NASSCOM and others can help them in understanding the tactics and style of that how we can really bring in quality at an affordable cost. How can we really make the project management tighter by the deployment of appropriate methodologies, tools, artifacts, and how we can squeeze. If a big company is saying that they will take 10 man-months or 100 man-months to execute a work, how a nimble-footed small company with much more agility and much more applications of a better governance and quality can make that in a 10%, 15% lesser man-month and lesser time, but producing a product of similar quality or maybe of higher quality. And this is exactly if they can do. That is the question of creating a mind share. If they do it in 10 such companies and 10 such clients, if the impact of creating that mind share has a much bigger impact than creating a mind share, than creating a market share, which a big company may actually be trying to do by buying many clients, by giving them a cheaper rate or by giving them a cheaper quote. Now, the other thing that one really needs to understand in a small and medium enterprises is, because when I also started the IT setup, though it was in a part of a large company, but when I faced some of the challenges which some of the small and medium enterprises may now still be facing, this is where you can't afford to have the huge bench strength, because a large company can always keep it, suppose they may be working at 30% bench, they may be working at 70% utilization, which means that if I have 100 people, I may be actually deploying 70 people, and 30 people I may actually be keeping on my bench, because just to cater to suddenly some more work coming in, and therefore I am in a position to actually much more diversify and take more and more projects by increasing the bench strength. Now this is where a limitation definitely to an IT implementer comes up, which is on a smaller scale, that they cannot work at that 70-75% utilization. Their objective will be to increase the utilization and take it to 90%, 95%, because the bench is actually burning. I mean, what we call is a burnout. I mean, if more bench you keep, it's burning. Now since you are working at a 90%, 85% utilization, you will always like to make your people chargeable and not want to have people sitting on the bench. One of the things that will definitely have to be that apart from increasing the utilization, you also have to start releasing the people as quickly as possible from the projects. Because otherwise what will happen, they will just get stuck into one project. And as long as you are keeping them stuck into one project, one has to really keep in mind that you are losing opportunities in the market. An opportunity once gone is gone. You cannot actually, in an IT sector or in an IT kind of an environment, if an opportunity or a client once goes off, for 5 to 6 years you actually can just forget that client. It will not come back to you. So therefore the mechanism, the art of keeping the utilization at a higher level, yet releasing the resources at a faster pace by squeezing the timeline of the project, by bringing in much more tools, methods and governance is the one that one really needs to earn. And therefore increase the bottom line, the profitability. Because I really do not believe that the small and medium enterprises at the very outset should go for a top line drive. It is the question of having a reasonable top line, but it is the question of how we can really improve the bottom line. Because most of the big companies, if you see their balance sheet, if you analyze their balance sheet, they will be working more or less between a profitability region of 20 to 25%. I'm just saying that EBITDA, I mean at that level if you take, most of them between 19 to 27% will be the EBITDA that they will be working on. I mean if you take all these big companies. I mean some of the years they may actually hit 30%, but it will normally never cross 30%. This is a place where a smaller medium enterprises, if they can actually take that beyond 30% their profitability to a level of 35–40% profitability, because that is one that they have to keep on generating, and that is the one they have to plow back into their investment, because they have to really improve their profitability for the first 3 to 4 years and then possibly go for more market share and go for a top line drive. Because I've seen many small and medium enterprises unnecessarily going crazily after winning work where they may not be able to make much money, because they just feel it will be a shame on my part to lose that deal, it will be pride, that shame, the emotional factors which the biggies have, that they cannot associate with the business at that point in time. They really have to be very conscious about the bottom line. They have to control their expenses, they have to control their project slippages, they have to control their scope creeping, they have to control their bench strength, they have to control their controllable expenses, and their governance is an extremely important thing for them by which they actually can improve their profitability part of it. Cost of sales. Cost of sales in a large organization, we have times even take the cost of sales up to 30%, 35%, 40%. Chasing projects which we know will not really be yielding results, but I just do not want others to get that project away from us. There is no point in actually in small and medium enterprises investing in that kind of cost of sales. They have to really track, monitor their cost of sales. It may not be more than 5 to 7% is what their cost of sales should be. They should be going for certain anchor clients, make them so happy through their strong delivery, and therefore they should be reducing their cost of sales significantly. These are some of the things that they definitely need to focus on. One of the questions I do sometimes feel from the small and medium enterprises that how do I acquire talents from the market? Because if I really have to focus on quality, if I really have to focus on increased chargeability, if I really have to start releasing people, 15% lesser man-month than a big company, then I have to have quality people also coming in. I'm not a big brand, I cannot pay so much money. How do I really attract talents from the market to do all these things? Because if I'm really doing that with the lesser skilled people, I would really not be able to achieve that. Now this is definitely a challenge, because this is definitely a challenge. Yet I have seen there are some boutique companies who in the campuses are much more attractive to the people right now, to the campus outcomers. Even to the premier institutes like IITs and IIMs, we sometimes struggle against such companies because their pitch in their campuses are so strong on some of the niche areas or some of their value proposition that sometimes when we go there with a very generic portfolio of blah blah and abstract things, everything I do from strategy to technology and all these things, that is sometimes not so appealing to the freshers. They are sometimes going for some names where they feel that I will be able to grow with that organization. My entrepreneurial skill will be much more catered to there. So therefore it's not always true that they will be actually failing to capture those talents from the market, but it is true that the salary that they will be actually paying to these people could definitely be much lesser. Now this is where I must say that you may not always have to go for the tier 1 institutes. You can actually compromise a little bit on the recruitment side, because if the recruitment costs are little, you really not really need to flush your entire pocket by attracting talents from the market. But where we definitely need to focus on is the learning and development, the training. The training of the people, even if you get some lower tiers colleges and schools college people coming out and joining you, focus on the training. Training doesn't cost much. Because if you have actually training internally, you don't have to really hire auditorium or all these things. You can have internal people doing the training. Your internal senior project managers delivering the training based on the experience that they have had in terms of any methodology is the best training that one can actually have, rather than buying training from the market. So invest more time in the training to groom these people up. I mean, on the talent side, rather than spending useless money on always and trying to compete with the biggies in hiring talents from the premier institutes. Now, there are a couple of things which I must say, I mean, just to end, I mean, apart from the things one as what should be doing on quality, on the recruitment, on focusing on the governance part of it, reducing the controllable expenses. I don't know, I mean, this is where possibly NASSCOM can come in, and NASSCOM can really help and create that concept, and not just create that concept, implement that concept, because we have done it in a sector which is not IT. We did that in South, in Kerala, in Tirupati, and that sector in the Trivandrum belt. We did that for textile organizations. We helped in creating a cluster. By a cluster in the textile sector, by that what we did was that some of the shared services, some of the back office work, like my finance, my accounts, my HR, my procurement, my administration, these are necessary. You really have to invest in these things, because if you really want a smarter organization, an efficient organization, a highly productive organization, you have to have a very smart back office system. Otherwise, a very disorganized back office system will definitely not be able to allow you to streamline your organizations and give you efficiencies. So therefore, that is something where you definitely have to invest. But it is difficult for small and medium enterprises to really invest in that back office in so much. Now, in the textile sector, what we did, we actually made